No, she said, she emailed me and said there were only 2 days and there was 28.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. We'd like to call the meeting to order. 7:30. I'd like to call to order the September 18th, 2018 Board of Education regular meeting. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a brief moment of silence, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you. Okay, with our first order of business, I'd like to ask the board if you'd entertain the notion to move it later into the agenda, as Mr. Sizdek is at his practice right now. Absolutely. So he will be joining us shortly. Does anybody have it would be moved into where we can fit it as per, okay? Is that all right? Thank you very much. Okay, with that, I almost said being taken care of, but it's not. With that being said, we'll move on to public comment.
All right, Ms. Connie Williams, please.
Good evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of the 7th second grade at Northville Elementary School. One of the remarks we've heard when discussing the need for lower class sizes is there were 30 kids in my class when I went to school and I turned out all right. And so that got me thinking about the good old days. I thought about the black and white staticky TV with rabbit ears that I watched when I was young. It made me thankful for the high definition color flat screen TV in my home today. I thought about riding unrestrained in the back of my dad's old farm truck on hot summer days. That made me thankful for seat belts and the air conditioning that I enjoy in my car today. And then I thought about my first years teaching in this very district 18 years ago. In the good old days, the range of skills of students entering my second grade classroom was small. I had a few students slightly below grade level, a few slightly above grade level, but the majority of students truly fell in that average range, and I taught to that average child. The range of differentiation required in today's elementary classroom is vast. In second grade, we now receive students who are reading as low as a kindergarten level, students who read at a 4th grade level, and all of those levels in between. I have a few little mathematicians this year who still use their fingers to add 2 plus 1, but I also have a student who just the other day created an equation for the number 12 by multiplying negative integers. Those were his words. In the good old days, teachers followed state standards that were written in general terms along with local curricula that were written with more specificity but weak levels of challenge, even for the average child. Today, we teach standards with a high level of rigor and relevance in order to prepare our students for an increasingly competitive and demanding world. Back in the old days, teachers more or less generalized goals for their students and worked to meet those teacher-imposed goals throughout the course of the year. I'm not sure my students really even knew what my goals were for each of them. Teachers in today's classroom understand the importance of truly knowing their students, their strengths and weaknesses, their worries and fears, their hopes and dreams. We meet with our students one-to-one, and then we use this information to encourage students in our youngest grades to participate in individualized goal setting on a regular basis. The lengthy process involves students themselves setting specific goals within academic and non-academic areas, then working towards these goals, analyzing their successes, reevaluating and cycling through a new set of goals based on their changing strengths and weaknesses. When I think back to my early elementary days, I picture my teachers, all of them, and I can name most of them for you, sitting at their desks. That's where they lived. If you were to visit an elementary classroom tomorrow, you would find me and my colleagues meeting with small groups of writers huddled around tables, on the floor in a book nook conferencing with a reader, pulling a chair up to a desk to check in on a partnership playing a math game, modeling a strategy on the carpet near the easel, pointing out information on the smartboard, moving around the room endlessly to manage each moment of the day in order to maximize learning for each and every child, all 24 of them. In the good old days, special education students, those with individualized education plans, were pulled out of the classroom for a majority of the day and received instruction in a resource room where a teacher and special education paras would work together to support these learners. Today, these students often remain in the classroom where support is given by paras who push into the room. We know without a doubt that this is a positive action, but it is only positive for the students if we actually have enough special education paras and tutors to support this action. This year, we do not. Back then, I had a regular education para in my room for 3 hours each day. This meant that another adult was helping to reteach concepts, manage behaviors, encourage reluctant writers, listen, and assist struggling readers. This year, we have one regular education para for the entire student body at Northville. Tonight, after hearing our reflections, we ask the board to look forward, not back. Higher class sizes are not educationally sound, and the vast majority of research proves that. We are passionate, dedicated, highly skilled teachers who are here to advocate for our students, and we ask you to vote for a 7th second grade teacher at Northville Elementary School. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Carolyn Seda.
Good evening, members of the board. In New Milford, can you hear me? In New Milford, we are a district that is devoted to the collection and use of data and research-based strategies to inform and guide our best practices. Here we stand with overwhelming data and research on class size. Study after study tells us how incredibly critical it is to provide individualized attention to all students, especially our youngest. A special report from the Annie E. Casey Foundation titled Early Warning: Why Reading by the End of Third Grade Matters highlights how the ability to be an accomplished reader is critical to a child's success in school and how it affects their lifelong potential. An article published in the U.S. News and World Report in 2016 titled Don't Forget the Early Elementary Years, Public Policy Too Often Ignores Students in Lower Grades, outlines research that shows the average annual learning gains for children in grades K through 2 are dramatically greater than those for subsequent years of school. The article states that the outcomes of early education, specifically whether or not a child can read proficiently by 3rd grade, are a powerful predictor of later school and life outcomes. In yet another article on class size and student achievement, the Center for Public Education emphasizes research that shows when class size when class size reduction programs are well designed and implemented in the primary grades, K through 3, student achievement rises as class size drops. The research that I'm speaking of cites the incredible importance of helping our students when they are young. It is perhaps the most significant predictor of how well students will do throughout their academic careers. Whether they will thrive or struggle for the remainder of their time in school and beyond into their adult lives. It would be ironic that we would obsess over data indicating areas of weakness and try to correct deficient learning after the fact, when we can minimize those ill effects early on. There is nothing positive about large class sizes. There is no educational benefit that anyone can cite. This is a losing scenario. It's bad for students, teachers, and for our community. If you look at the overwhelming research available on the topic of smaller class sizes
in the primary grades, and trust Dr. Tracy, a veteran superintendent, I ask that you swiftly follow his imperative recommendation and create an additional second grade at Northville Elementary School. Thank you.
Dorian, sorry. Ms. Dorian Koval.
Do you need my address or anything right here? No? All right. So tonight you've heard Mrs. Williams and Mrs. Seda speak to the increased demands on education and the educationally sound practice of smaller class sizes. Mrs. Tufts, another second grade teacher who couldn't be here tonight, has taught upward of 24 students before. She shared how those experiences required more management and resulted in less teaching. Frankly, little to no growth was made by her students, despite her best efforts. We're hopeful that Dr. Tracy's recommendation of adding a 7th teacher will be seen in the best interest of our students, despite the temporary disruption to the classes. We're here because the class sizes are large and because there's an astounding disparity between the second grades at Northville, where we have 6 classes of 23 or 24 students, and Hill and Plain, where there are 7 classes of just 18 students each. In the past week alone, 2 new students have arrived and have put half of our classrooms at Northville with 33% more students than at Hill and Plain, while the other half has 25% more students than at Hill and Plain. The students at both schools are expected to receive the same rigorous curriculum and have an expectation to make a minimum of 1 year's growth. However, it stands to reason that with up to 33% more students, the students at Northville will receive less individualized attention and differentiated instruction than their counterparts at Hill and Plain. We have a moral and ethical responsibility to our students, and we have a real fear that that under these circumstances, we're going to fail to meet these students' needs and their projected growth. This is going to put more than half of the class of 2029 at a disadvantage. We as a district and as parents often have to make tough decisions and hard choices to benefit our kids in the long run. This is one of those times. In just 13 days, we've bonded with these children, and they to us. But it would be a shame to keep them in a less than satisfactory situation for 100% of the school year when you can give them a better chance at getting what they need in a smaller class size for the remaining 93% of the year. Our students will almost certainly bond with the new teacher and their classmates nearly as quickly as they did us, and our new colleague will not be on his or her own, as there are 6 other teachers with a vested interest in the success of the children in that classroom. We work as a team. Those 20 children, lucky enough to be part of the 7th classroom, will have friends in more than one class and have at least 2 teachers rooting for them. It's unfortunate this disparity was not identified before the beginning of the school year. Had it been, I believe the board would have rectified it then. The addition of the 7th teacher now will make class sizes more comparable to our sister school. Classes will have approximately 20 students each, which is still 2 students more than at Hill and Plain. Please vote yes to support the addition of a teacher at Northville to level the playing field and give our students a more comparable education to their peers at Hill and Plain so that when they meld together next year here at Sarah Noble, they're all on the same page. Thank you.
Miss Carolyn Hyde.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carolyn Hyde. I'm speaking as a parent this evening. I can't say any more than these ladies have said about the second grade classroom and the addition to it. I would like to begin by thanking you for bringing leadership on, such as Dr. Tracy this year, even if it's just an interim. Do I dare say I had the experience as a student under Dr. Tracy many years ago? And there might have been
12, I don't know.
I was very young. And there was a little, you might have heard a little whoop when we got the email, because my husband and I did have a discussion, like, do you remember Dr. Tracy? How much we knew him. We were in high school with your boys, actually. And we saw him in the hallways.
really rubbing
We
it
knew
in
who
now.
he was. What was that? And here I am as a parent now in the district. We moved back about 4 years ago. And this was my first year at an open house for parents being welcomed by a superintendent. It set the bar high as a student, as a parent, I'm sorry, and a student, as a parent, to know that this is the leadership that we could have in this district. And now the recommendation of the 7th classroom is just beyond leadership in such a short period of time. I'm just asking the board to see this and to know that this is what our district can have, this is what our district deserves, and going forward, when you're looking at for superintendents, new superintendents, because you're only an interim, unfortunately, that this is the leadership that we look at and that we base decisions on what we've had in such a short period of time. Thank you.
Miss Amy Davis.
Thank you. I apologize. I don't have anything prepared. I'm a single mom of 5 with 4 children in the district, so I didn't have an opportunity to write anything. I also am a contract employee with ESS who services the district for substitute teachers. So I share in the experiences that the 2nd grade teachers have. I'm right there with them. I totally understand what they're going through, and I help them through it every day. I'm a parent, obviously, and I'm speaking on behalf of the 2nd grade classroom in favor of it. And for all of the reasons that these ladies have said, the smaller class sizes allow for just so much learning and so much more control. And the children who have a need in the classroom are greater serviced when the class size is small, as are the other children who, because of the children who need the service, some of the special education students, they require more time. And then that in turn leaves less time for the rest of the classroom. I've spoken with a lot of parents who have said, yes, we definitely want a smaller classroom, smaller classrooms for our kids. I just don't want them to take my kid. I get that. Like Ms. Cavell said, it's only been 13 days, but they're in there. My daughter's teacher is here, and as much as it pains me to say, I'm going to say, take my kid, take my 2nd grader, put her in that new classroom, because I know not only will it help her, it'll help her peers, it'll help her district, it'll help her brother who's in 1st grade, it'll help my friends' children, it'll help the town. Thank you.
And last, Miss Nancy Webb.
Hello, good evening. I don't have anything prepared either. I'm actually here to talk to the board on your agenda tonight about your physical force policy. I see it's on there. I wanted to bring to the attention of the board that things at Hill and Plain are not okay. I am the mom of 2 special needs children. Sorry. And one was actually outplaced in the 2nd grade. And not pointing fingers, but just because people are not trained properly. The school, the administration there, it drops the ball. And that's not okay. Now I have a 2nd child going up. Both are on the autism spectrum. Both are at the different ends of the spectrum. And actually, one of the 2nd grade teachers from Northville hit on it. There, with all of the new diagnosis, with all the new, which increases the population of special needs in the communities all over, the differentials of all the things that are identified under IDEA, it's not possible, especially if you're not trained properly, to help all of these children. Special needs, regular ed, it's impossible. But to find out that the administration, that staff isn't trained properly,
It's not okay. Me, just, I'm a school bus driver, I'm a mom, I'm nobody. If I can interpret these laws and policies for what they are, the people that I'm trusting with my children, they should be able to. We're, about 4 weeks into the school year. My youngest, who's at Helen Plain, personally, he already had in part of this new law an escorted restraint. It wasn't reported properly. School was an hour and a half almost from out of compliance if I hadn't spoken up. That's not okay. The things that we've uncovered with other families in the district is scary. I'm a proud resident of New Milford. I want my children to be in this town. But it saddens me that even my husband now doesn't even want my youngest to go to kindergarten there. He just became verbal, but he's cognitively delayed. He can't tell me that something bad happened to him, and that's scary as a parent. And on the flip side, I get it, because he doesn't have an awareness of danger. So sometimes things need to be done to keep the child safe, but the staff that's with him should be trained properly. To find out that even, I think it was about 30 staff from the district today was pulled to do PMT training. That staff, they should not be in our buildings if they're not trained. And we're losing this staff from our schools because they're leaving because they're in an uncomfortable situation. They're being told to just keep the child safe. There are no plans. I just heard through the grapevine as well, now 2 new paraprofessionals are resigning from one of the special education rooms. And good for them because they're stepping up, because they're not okay with being put in the uncomfortable situation, but we're not training them properly to keep the staff there. They need to be trained. They need to know the law. We have new laws that came out in July. The families, they're not getting that information. They don't know what is what, and they don't know what the rights are. These, unfortunately, in a sense, because of that, and we like to keep the numbers, things aren't being communicated properly to the proper channels. And everybody wants to make it like it's okay. And it's not okay. And that's actually taking away from these kids fair and appropriate education. They're not going to be successful. You have kids that have moved up from 2nd to 3rd grade because they've managed their behaviors, but they can't read because there wasn't properly trained staff to help them, to identify them even, to keep them safe. We found parents that didn't know their children had been restrained or in a seclusion their whole careers at this school. That's not okay. I urge the board to try and look into just the defects that are going on at this school, and maybe inclusion just isn't the best for anyone at this point. Maybe this town needs to get some more information. Maybe we need to start looking into that. Kids, regular kids, special needs kids, everyone seems to be suffering from all of this. It's just too much. But our administration and our staff, our support, we need to give them the proper guidelines to follow to keep our children safe. This is their foundation, and it's being tainted. Ms. Olson and former Superintendent Joshua Smith, they both put out there, they know that the numbers are rising, the need for these elementary-aged kids, and the rise of their just dysregulation, I think Mr. Smith put it. These kids are different. They're all different, and we need to help them. But I want to trust the people to educate my children, and I don't have that trust right now. And a lot of the special needs parents were scared. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board, see what we can do about all this going forward and get this new information out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to make a comment at this point? Scanning. No more. Okay. We'll close public comment. And with that being said, we're going to go back to number 2 with our recognition. How about that?
Well, David, you got to come up here.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
no hiding in the back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is our chance to publicly and once again congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
Not just for being selected as the Milford's Teacher of the Year, but for all the work and all the care for kids that I know went behind that and led you to that point. So we're very pleased to be joining in that applause and recognition for you tonight. And the chairman of the board has a document that he would like to read to you and something to present.
Teacher of the Year is a pretty big deal. And first of all, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Proud of the students you teach and what they've accomplished and what they will do. With that being said, just a brief proclamation making it official that yes, you will be representing New Milford in the state competition and later on, and who knows what that'll bring later. There you go.
Let me read this. I'd like to read this so that for those of you who are too far away to see it. Here's what it says. Proclamation of the New Milford Board of Education. Whereas David Sezdek has been a valued member of the faculty of the New Milford Public Schools since 2010. Whereas throughout the years he has served the young people of our community with care, talent, and passion. Whereas his colleagues have selected him as New Milford's Teacher of the Year for 2018-19 in recognition of his many accomplishments as an educator. Now therefore, the New Milford Board of Education hereby extends to David Sezdek its appreciation for his many contributions to the cause of public education and congratulates him on this well-deserved recognition. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Otto and Danbury, you, this isn't a key, but it's kind of cool. It entitles you to a key, and we'll get the instructions.
And
for
Tracy,
you.
can we have Tracy O'Connor with Ingersoll come on up?
Oh, you are here.
Tracy, what has David won?
So, David, congratulations.
Thank you.
Todd Ingersoll, as an alumni of Bethel, started this program in Bethel, and he recognizes the importance of our teachers and the staff that support them. So what you have won is you get to use a 2019 5-passenger SUV for a month as a token of appreciation.
Okay.
And all of us at Ingersoll thank you all for everything that you do for our children.
Oh my God, I don't know if I can afford the gas, but thank you. Okay.
It will.
Sure. Right. Awesome.
That's here are the instructions on how to pick up that auto.
Wow.
This is your chance to, if you want to
Thank you.
share a few words with the
Sure.
group here about what this is meant to
You know,
do.
number one, thank you to the board and the administration of New Milford, the parents and the students for all their hard work and support that they've shown me over the years. And in 2010, I mean, it's not that long of a period of time, but man, it feels like a long time. But I mean, we have done some really great things at the high school and throughout the entire music program here in New Milford, and that's not without the support of everyone who's sitting here in this room. So I can't thank you enough, and you know, the students really push me and motivate me and drive me to see what's next, to take it to the next level. So looking forward to it. And thank you so much for the car. That's amazing. And thanks for Chris Stewart for calling me and telling me I should come to this. I literally, about 15 minutes ago, I was sitting in the stands
rehearsing the band. That's what I was doing, but that's what I do, and that's my passion. And sorry, I've slipped my mind, but believe me when I say I was doing the thing that earned me this award in the first place. So thank you very much.
Wow, that's great.
At this point, we'll take a short break. Please join us for some refreshments and
Usually not this long. It's usually We're looking forward to it.
Get your voice, will you?
So much campaign.
Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, we'll reconvene and we'll start with the PTO report.
Hello. The PTO has already been very busy. All the schools hosted welcome back events for our wonderful teachers and staff. This year, townwide PTO is continuing what has become a very popular new tradition with monthly spirit days for the K through 5 schools on the first Friday of every month. On the 7th of September, the kids showed their New Milford school spirit with some wacky and crazy hair on Crazy Hair Day. Check out some of the teachers' Twitter feeds for some great pictures. The SNIS PTO and HPS PTO have also hosted wonderful welcome back events for the students and families. Picture Day and senior portraits have concluded at the high school. The K through 8 school picture days are underway or scheduled to happen within the next month. Apex Fun Run will be coming to NES and HPS in October and Sarah Noble in November. This is a very popular fundraiser that we did a couple years ago. The students enjoy participating in it very much, and families love it too. All of the PTOs are gearing up for family fun nights, movie nights, and fall book fairs. Fundraisers are also underway to fund field trips and assemblies throughout the school year. Townwide PTO is also working hard to build up the scholarship fund. We are selling our ever-popular discount cards while supplies last, and hosting a fall craft and vendor fair in November so we can make more scholarships available to graduating seniors. Did you know that you can find us on Facebook? Each school PTO has a Facebook page. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, and now student representatives. I see a new face.
This is Craig Benvenuti. He's our junior representative for this year.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We just want to start off saying it's good to be back. We started off the year with half days, but we started off with a bang, so hopefully this year will be good. September 6th, we had Ed Garrity come in, and he was actually really inspirational. We had a lot of fun in the audience with him. He gave us a lot of good tips on how to use our brains to get where we want to go. So it was really nice to have him at the school.
Last week, everyone had their photos taken for the yearbook, and the seniors are expected to choose theirs by the end of the week. On September 7th, varsity field hockey played Hall and lost 3-0. And on September 11th, boys varsity soccer played Stratford, winning 4-0. Following on September 12th was the high school's open house. And on September 13th, boys varsity soccer played Bunnell, winning 4-0 again. And on September 13th, varsity field hockey played Joe Barlow, and they tied 1-1.
September 20th, boys varsity soccer will play Colby Cathedral at Veterans Park. The same day is the senior class aerial photo.
And on the same day also, varsity field hockey plays Immaculate away at Mustang Field.
September 22nd, the band has their home show. Their show is called Mirage. I will be there. A bunch of the school will actually be there because we enjoy watching our band perform.
And on September 25th, boys varsity soccer, we will be playing our rival New Fairfield home on the stadium field.
September 27th, we have the HIPAA presentation after school for the regional job shadowing program. So all the students from around this region will be coming to New Milford High School to see that. And October 3rd, we have the senior guidance night where seniors can get more information about college application process and get any questions that they have answered by our guidance counselors.
Following on October 4th, Hidden in Plain Sight presentation will be happening at the high school. And on October 10th, we will be hosting a financial aid night.
October 3rd, Spanish Honor Society is hosting their blood drive. So they're actually going around asking anyone 17 or older to try and donate blood. And then October 15th, the National Honor Society is having their annual induction ceremony. So we invite all of you to see who gets to join this wonderful group of kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I, Mr. Chairman, if I might just say first, welcome to Craig and Elizabeth. I have just met Craig for the first time this evening, and looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better. And Elizabeth and I had a chat the other day at the high school, and she's a bright, engaging, enthusiastic representative, and I've encouraged both of them to share with their fellow students what's going on at this table, and feel free to come forward with agenda items that you're concerned about or issues that you think this group needs to know about from a student perspective. So welcome and thank you for being of service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6. I need a motion to approve the following Board of Education meeting minutes. Regular meeting minutes, August 21st, 2018.
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Okay, those in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. I guess it's interim superintendent's report, but we'll call it the superintendent's report.
It's all you've got for tonight, so that's well, just a lot has happened since we sat here about a month ago. We had what I thought was a very enthusiastic and productive convocation day, not just the welcome back and the band, which was great. David had me to the point where I was going to run home and get my clarinet. I can really see the energy and the enthusiasm that he brings to his work. And then the rest of the day, the teachers were engaged in a very lively and I think important professional development experience that Ms. DeCorpo helped to organize with our friends from Revision Learning. I plunged right in with Ms. Baldelli to the interviewing of teachers as we filled the remaining vacancies as the school year approached, and also had a chance to meet with several of the teachers that were new to the district and many new to the profession, including one young lady that I actually did hand her high school diploma to her years ago. That was, but the most memorable sort of homecoming experience I had, I was walking through the Scattercoat cafeteria one afternoon to see how hot was, and a young man came up to me and he said, my mother was in the 8th grade when you were here last, and she wants to know if you remember her. And I had to say no, that I didn't really remember all the 8th grade girls from 1992, but it was a nice welcome. We got the schools open on August 29th. By all reports, it was a smooth opening despite the challenge of weather. I do want to thank our food service people who made a point of having lots of water out in the schools, custodians who came in early to open windows and get the fans going and trying to make it as bearable as it could be, and of course the families who had to put up with the schedule that wasn't the one they planned on for the opening few days of school. But with a lot of perseverance on the part of our kids and our staff, we made it through to cooler times, and in a few weeks now we'll be complaining about the cold. So. And I also, again, wanted to thank all the folks there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, as you know, custodians, teachers, central office staff, our school principals, our bus drivers, bringing us to a point where we can open school for thousands of kids and have it go off as well as it did. I enjoyed my opening day bus ride, took a high school run with some sleepy teenagers, and then a very chatty Sarah Noble ride that came over here to this school. So that was fun. I had a very enjoyable getting acquainted session with Mayor Bass, and we talked about a lot of things that we can collaborate on. First and foremost is getting the roof at this school fixed and the roof at the high school fixed. Kevin and I have been in lots of meetings to try to figure out how to keep that moving, so that is happening. The board has seen, and I think the public through the newspapers have seen, the results of the Smarter Balanced Assessment results that were released by the state recently, and I'll be working with Mr. Corpo and our principals to put a presentation together for all of you so we can see where things stand, what we're happy about, and what we need to work on. Yesterday had my first chat with Dr. Jeff Kitching at Education Advance, and I think, Ms. Monahan, you're going to have a report later on, but we had a chance to talk a little bit about how that organization has been supporting and can work with us to move things along. Finally, in one of the early days of school, I had a chance to visit this building, and there's a very interesting bulletin board, and I think it's still out there, Ms. Bilko, where the kids were asked to finish the sentence, "I am excited about," and then they posted little things that they were excited about. And I will confess that I tend to see the world through choice theory glasses, and those of you who have heard me talk about this know that I'm a big advocate of Dr. Glasser's ideas, and one of the things he teaches is that all human behavior, that's us, that's the kids, that's everybody around, is driven by the same 5 basic needs. And those are safety and survival, love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun. So I look at this chart, this wall of stuff from the kids, and you can really see it. The kids have never read any of Dr. Glasser's books, but they already know. So here are some of the items that are up there. First one, food.
Yep.
I'm excited about food. That's survival, okay? Here's another one. I'm excited because I love to learn. That's power. I will see my friends again. Belonging. Ben says he's going to see his old friends. I don't know how you can have old friends when you're 9 years old. He's looking forward to seeing his old friends. This youngster says, playing the cello again. That's power. I'm good at something. This school is helping me be better than I was yesterday. I'm excited to learn multiplication. That's power. Okay, recess. Freedom. And I'm excited to play kickball and pitchball. That's fun. So survival, belonging, power, freedom, and fun. The kids get it. You know, we need to get it. Anyway, that's my report. I'm having a good time.
Okay.
Fun and freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, just a few things to let you know. Yesterday, the administrative team and board members, Tammy and Wendy, we met with the town to discuss insurance. That's going to be an ongoing process to see if we can find some cost savings while maintaining quality. We've also been in talks with the town about the roofs, as Dr. Tracy said, specifically the one here at this building, as well as the high school. The high school will get a, I don't want to call it a temporary fix, but it will be repaired and secured, thank you, for the winter to prevent any safety issues there. And that's about all we've got. The rest we have on the agenda on what we'll be doing in the future or not doing in the future. Okay. So moving on to the committee reports. Facilities.
Well, I was unable to attend to that meeting, but Ms. Chastain, Angie, pinch hit for me, and thank you because it looked like a really interesting meeting, important meeting. So.
And did you want to say a few words?
They have the minutes, they can read them, and anything that needed to be moved on is on the agenda.
Thank you. Operations?
We had a really robust agenda for operations, as we often do, coming back into full swing. I'll review some of it. Most of them are on here for discussion and action. We have, of course, the financial reports and personnel reports. And you'll see on here this evening, and forgive me for going through the minutes because we had, as I said, a lot on the agenda to discuss. We have the Northville enrollment and second grade request on here that is being brought forward to the board for discussion. The committee had their own discussion and automatically moved it forward. The tuition rates are on here for the board for acceptance, and there was a brief overview of that. I'm sure it'll come up under the motion with any questions on that. We'll be setting the graduation date of June 22nd, 2019 at 2 o'clock. If all goes through, we have the end of the year balance, in which we now have an unaudited number of, I believe, $346,000, in which we'll be requesting to place those funds appropriately as we normally do. We also have
Forgive me. We have, the superintendent search was given to us as bit of beginning on operations because it's a financial and personnel piece, but obviously that's going to lead to a much more lengthy and robust plan of where we're going to go as a board and what criteria we're going to set and how we want to pursue that. But I appreciate the opportunity for beginning that at operations at least. We have the Hill and Plain oil tank funding, in which we, back in May, the board had made a decision to authorize the vendor for that, and now we need to appropriate those funds accordingly, and I'm sure discussion will come up under that based on our May conversations. We were requested to have a turf field committee update in which there was a memo attached pertaining to that committee and how the funds work and really where we are with that, and I'd be happy to discuss that under items of information. If I've missed anything, I apologize. I'm sure we'll get to it through the full agenda.
Okay, thank you. And policy?
Thank you, David. You'll see on the agenda here at the top of the agenda, policies for approval per board bylaw 9311. These will come right through to approval first time through. 4 of the 5 are driven by public acts, and they're statutorily driven. And I just want to make a quick note on all 5, if I can. Recruitment and selection here, some language cleanup. You'll see No Child Left Behind is no longer, so ESSA, it's the new language of the land, so some minor cleanup there. Reporting child abuse and neglect. I don't know that we've ever done this in a policy, but I think it's worth noting. You'll see the reporting for mandated reporting to DCF has always been oral, but there's an option, and it will come into place this year as a pilot for electronic reporting. But what we did was legal advised to, there's a section of the policy that would become active in October 2019. So I don't know if we've ever, instead of a sunset provision, I don't know what they call that, but a sunrise provision that will come about in October 2019, and then that's already put into this policy. So we thought that was kind of a clever way to account for what may be coming and will likely be coming. So it's interesting to see too, as DCF comes on board with the pilot this year, that's an option for reporting as well as the electronic reporting. You'll also see 5141 here, student health services. There's an addition here, and we spent quite a bit of time discussing this, that the board requests parents of students in selected grades for an oral health assessment. It's not required, but it's just a request. And that's one piece there from that Public Act 18-168, or 168, yeah. Also a little piece in asthma reporting too for those selected grades as well. We had a lively discussion on, let's see, policy 5141.21, administration of medication. So that's an existing policy we have, but it also picks up the bus drivers as a party who could administer epinephrine in the case of anaphylactic shock, but also release them of some liability if it's in good faith and doesn't constitute gross, willful, or wanton negligence. So I want to thank Mr. Faya for his pro bono legal work. And you'll see in the blue comments here the word may and the word shall. A lot of people don't realize, but law is a foreign language to many. And he is very fluent in this, and he asked that question, and we got some nice resolution from legal here. So thank you again, Joe, for that. So yeah, that word may that would be a big issue. So we had that discussion. So thanks again.
There's a world of difference.
What's that?
There's a world of difference.
It sure is, and you live in that world, so you know that. And I also want to, you'll see the last policy for approval there, 5157. I want to thank the public for sharing their perspective here and concern. I think it's important to note this policy 5157, we had adopted it in February of 2016. So this is new, and this was related to a public act 2 years prior. And this does deal with physical force and restraint, and it's new to schools across the state. So I think we're all wrestling, and I don't need to say that word, with how this public act is interpreted and the required training that's required, the preventative training plan for this. And I think it's incumbent upon the board,
to keep our ear to the ground on this and continue to communicate and, implore the public to communicate with us and with, our administrators on this, and help, at the same time, it's incumbent upon that administration to take the time to understand from parents, and also help to educate parents as to what is in this policy 5157. So I just want to make a note of that, again, also in light of some of the public comment this morning, or this evening. And that's it. So policies for approval, these will come through once, and then that's it. So thank you.
Thank you. Committee on Learning.
Okay. Left my notes on my printer, so I get to read them off my phone. Fun times. So we will have two curriculum coming before the board tonight. One is computer literacy, which, if you all remember, replaces the keyboarding class at the high school, and the second is AP Computer Science Principles. We also at Committee on Learning had a discussion about the Northville second grade enrollment class size. Several teachers attended and provided a joint statement of their concerns, followed by a robust discussion by members of COL. This topic is also on tonight's agenda for discussion and possible action. And we had a wonderful presentation of theories of action by Mrs. DeCorpo and the progress that they're making in the district about educating our staff about the theories of action and how they do drive everything that we do here. She presented information in this area also at the administrative retreat, the convocation, and for the new teachers entering the district. She said the focus is to develop instructional capacity so that the administrators can lead the work in their buildings, and there will be ongoing review of professional learning being implemented in the district. And I wanted to add that I did attend several of the open houses and curriculum nights so far, and I have to tell you the main presentations by either the principals or lead teachers included our theories of action right up on the screen, and talked a little bit about what they are, why they're important, how they drive our district. And I was just really happy to see that, because I think it's kind of terminology we want to start making sure that our parents understand, so that they kind of know where we're going in the district. So I thank you for all of that work, and that's all I have.
Thank you. And at Advance?
Okay, I was unable to make the meeting, but I pulled this off their minutes. So, the current catalog is as Foothills Adult and Continuing Education Catalog. Do we get that? Do you know if we get that?
I will find out.
And how do we distribute it? It'd be interesting, because it gives you all the opportunities they provide. They had a lot of good PR about their Head Start program, which increased this year, and this interactive computer program for commuting, for travel, which we had talked about before, where they put in the information and they try to pair up kids that are going from one school district to another school. The sale of the two Catholic schools in Torrington, the old Catholic schools, is almost finalized. The mortgage there will be less than the current lease on the Litchfield property, so they'll be making money. And they'll put their Head Start program in one and their Access North program in the other. And the only problem is they'll have significant cosmetic renovations they need. And they had an all-staff day for Ed Advance, and they had input and update from the staff. They presented the year-end budget and discussed a proposed budget for 18-19. They had a team, one of the teams, and they sent them to, they had 9 teams that they sent to Yale for a Selling Institute for School Leaders workshop, 3-day workshop. And the next one is going to be in October if anyone's interested in going. And if we tell them we're interested in going, they'll start putting together a new Milford team and schedule it in there. It's long. Page 2. The all-agency day in August brought together a request for an all-agency training day in conjunction with the Harvest Lunch. So board members are welcome, and I will go as the scheduled representative there. And they're working with CPAPs to develop a policy to define the actual school season when there are some snow and weather days in the district. So that's statewide with the state congressional leaders. And they're offering a workshop on boards of education rules and responsibilities free to the district. And we have to contact them if you're interested. So I'll have to take a survey if you're interested to put it together. They hopefully would present it at our Board of Education meeting. The Ed Advance Fort and won a Department of Labor ruling to make an Ed Advance an educational employee, and that saves their seasonal position people, the drivers, the cafeteria, and they can get unemployment during the summer. And Ed Advance has provided temporary support, mostly business managers in 3 districts. The next meeting is October 4th, and it will be a review of the upcoming budget. So, all right. So I just somehow contact me if you're interested in this presentation, and we'll organize it to see if they're interested in the presentation to the full board on roles and policies.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And CABE, well, JT, you kind of stole everything from me. Most of the CABE correspondence right now is putting forth all the new mandates, laws, and policies that passed in the last legislative session, so that's where we're at there. And that brings us to negotiations.
Negotiations. So we are currently handling 3 bargaining units right now. We hope to bring a agreement to the board regarding the teachers. We are working with secretaries and nurses at this time. I think that it would, I'd like to just take a quick moment to remind everyone that the team, the administrative team, the board members who serve on this committee, there's a tremendous amount of time over the summer involved in this. And with several bargaining units at once, it really is a dedication, and it's so appreciated by everybody involved. And so I'd like to thank the team and the administration too for all of that. So we're coming through the end cycle of here, and we'll bring that information once we can to the board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And discussion and possible actions. And
Magnet School.
Magnet School, I knew that.
Okay. I called the Academy of International Studies. They have 376 students, which is just about the same enrollment as they had last year. And New Milford still has 17 of their 18 slots taken, so there's 1 slot available. And I called the person who organizes the meeting for the district-wide. All the districts come in once a year for a meeting down there, and she hadn't called me back yet, so I will stay on top of that.
Okay, thank you. Try again. Discussion and possible action. Okay. I need a motion to approve the following policies in accordance with Board Bylaw 9311. 1, 4111/4211 recruitment and selection. 2, 4118.25/4218.25 reporting child abuse and neglect. 3, 5141 student health services. 4, 5141.21 administration of medication. And 5, 5157 use of physical force.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Just a question. On the administration of medication, you said you're going to add bus drivers. Are they going to be trained? I think I said sort of in there that they will be trained how to use it.
So you'll see in the policy that's required that they would be trained.
Okay.
Right? So that's actually part of, the first part of the policy lists that. But that's actually incumbent upon the contractor to do that.
The contractor has to do it. Okay, thank you.
Joe?
Couple comments on these policies. Thank you, JT. May is optional, shall is not. May be liable means you will be. Shall not be liable means you will not be. That's critical. I will comment on the fact that I always have difficulty in us obligating people to take actions. And in particular, school bus drivers here. It's not being required here. It's not in our contract yet. Understand the seriousness of these situations, such as anaphylactic shock and other medical issues that occur during transportation or in the school system. Some people by law are required to act. Some are not. Most are not. And I mentioned this once before. in here in the United States, you have no obligation to step up and help someone unless you're in this special category of individuals, and that varies, whether it be law enforcement, firemen, teachers in school. So I have difficulty with the fact that we would obligate a bus driver to this. Now, it's still optional, and we all know these bus drivers protect these children with every way they can. But the minute we start to obligate everybody to step up, you lose sight of where we are. And so we're okay here now with this, and obviously they're not going to allow anybody to do it without training, but I tread cautiously when we start requiring everybody to take any kind and all kinds of medical action in any of these environments. Next, this 5157A, use of physical force, probably we understand it's part of the law to mandate this and this policy as it is. We heard comment from the public tonight, and there's no question in mind that our administrators will look into and act on the comments by the public tonight. I hope that we never see or hear that type of public comment come before us again. I hope that we are following this policy to the letter of the law. We live in a society today where there is inclusion of everyone, and we need to act and protect and keep safe and take care of everyone that falls within our umbrella of the school board, of the school system. And I have faith in our administrators here to see that we don't reach a situation where we'll ever have the public come back before us again and have to say something like that. Or I'll say this to the public: if you have that concern, you make sure you get it to our administrators, our superintendents. And if you don't get those reactions, most of us who sit on this board will make sure that something is dealt with swiftly. With that, I'll move on.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
I think it's also worth noting too, thanks, Joe, for your comments. You know, if you look at 4 of these 5 policies we have, it's under that umbrella of student safety, and these are the non-negotiables. I mean, at the end of the day, these are statutorily driven, and we're told you do these things because it's the right thing to do. And so I think whether it be reporting child abuse, whether it be, you know, administering medication under Good Samaritan law, this is all about student safety at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important for us to remember.
Yeah, it was nice to read these policies because it's just a good reminder of what we have to do.
Those in favor? And, okay. Everybody, thank you. I need a motion to approve the following curricula. 1, computer literacy, and 2, AP computer science principles.
I'll move it.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Yes, sir.
We had these 2 teachers come before us in subcommittee to speak about these topics. It's great to see that we have these areas making progress with additional classes. This is where our society is going, completely computer-based. And I hope we continue to meet the challenge of having more young women involved in these classes. I don't know if any of us can find that answer as to why or why not, but the fact that we have the young women in the school district get involved in this can only lead to better success for the entire population. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Those in favor? Thank you. And C, tuition rates. I need a motion to approve the tuition rates for 2018-19 as follows. New Milford High School, $13,352.94. Skedikoke, $11,522.28. And Sarah Noble Intermediate and Elementary Schools, $11,477.98.
I'll
So
move it.
moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, those in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. I need a motion to approve the New Milford High School graduation date for 2019 for Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, at 2 p.m.
So moved.
Second?
And is there any discussion?
Write it down.
Let's hope we don't
Sure
have that
we get
much
that
snow.
date, that time. Reset it.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Those in favor? Yeah, and that's everybody, thank you. Okay, E, end of, 2017-18 end of the year balance. I need a motion to make a request to the town that the end of the year balance for 2017-18, subject to final audit, go to capital reserve. I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? 1, 2. You want to, go ahead.
Oh, I plan on making an amendment, so whoever, if you, go ahead.
I will bring this up once again. This number is $346,753 after we contributed $450,000 to the town of New Milford. So had we not, we'd have a significant amount of money here. And we see on tonight's agenda how important that capital reserve account of ours is. And I'll be honest, it's a little disheartening that the town is, on the positive side, 1.5 million, of which 1/3 came from us, which I'll make sure we get credit for it by saying here tonight, 1/3 of their progress is based on what we did. It was the school boards. We all agreed that we were going to help this community. We did, and so I wish we had our money back. And they can feel free to give it back to us anytime.
Oh, I won't dispute that. Okay, Wendy.
I'm just going to toss this out there if the amendment passes, and I'm not even quite sure if this is the proper protocol. It's the first time it's ever been done. But I'd like to make an amendment to that motion and request that $50,000 be placed into the Munis account number 325-200-4951000006, which reflects the turf field
yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
That account belongs to, in a lockbox of the town. We've had this discussion. This is a tough one because you're absolutely correct. Our capital reserve is all we have. We don't have a contingency. We need our capital reserve to help fund the capital expenditures that certainly we can't absorb in our operation budget. But I am hopeful that this will open the door and that, quite frankly, the town will match it at the very least. When we look back to our operations memo, we were originally planning on $294,000 of an end-of-year balance, and after the rollout, I believe we're up to $346,000. So I think this would be the time to make that statement, and in light of the fact that the town does have a positive of $1.5 million, I think that this would be the time to put our foot forward and show the town that we know that we have a financial obligation that the entire town made and set the example.
I agree with you. I have to couch my words here.
Are you seconding the motion?
Oh, yes, I am.
It's an amendment.
Yes, I am. Sorry, everybody.
And to be, so
Yeah.
you're seconded, but to be clear on that motion, the remainder of the end of the year balance, by virtue of this amendment, would be requested to go to the town council and the board of finance for the capital reserve.
Right. No, I think it's an important point. That account for the turf replacement has a paltry $4,000 after 3 years. We know we have a liability of at least $1 million in 7 to 8 years. It could be sooner, it might be later. I'm not going to make an analogy here, but we know what happens when we kick the can down the road knowingly. And I concur. I think we can start making our payments now, so to speak, as well as the town, I think would be prudent to match us at minimum in this. And even with $100,000, we are still behind what is required in the time frame to have the turf fields properly maintained. So I will support the amendment, and with the remainder going into, asking for the remainder to go into our capital reserve, because Lord knows we don't want to use our capital reserve for that. It'll drain it no matter where we are. Yes,
Can I just
Wendy,
ask
and
for
then
clarification
Sure.
from Anthony, please? Would that would this amendment stand true to separate those dollar amounts appropriately? Correct. Is that?
Yep.
Okay, and identifying the munis account for that helps? Great.
That account number is correct, and I'll double check it with
I
Pat.
double checked it.
Joe?
No, after you.
The artificial turf project, or those field projects, not only involve the fields, the track, all the supporting shot put, all the other track activities, which I can't think of right now, but that was a town of New Milford undertaking. Granted, it's on school property. And I think sometimes the town council forgets their two greatest assets are right here. One, their children, and two, their buildings. The biggest assets this town owns are these buildings. And it was a town council push to get those fields done when they were done. And it came in under budget because of the people who dedicated their time, particularly the public who helped get those things built. They are a beautiful project that everybody's proud of. It has won national awards for some of the architectural work. We have the only LED lighting fields in the state of Connecticut, or at least did when we opened them. Not even our universities have them. And those, one, they allow them to, they're probably lit up right now. And
For the band, practicing.
It saves energy. So there's, across the board, but we cannot forget, this was a town project. And the town can't expect us at the Board of Ed to fully fund the replacement of the carpet, for lack of a better word, the green blades.
Stuff.
Right, that's a carpet that has a 10 to 12 year lifespan, and believe it or not, the reinforcement that holds those blades up and cushions it is a coated rubberized pellet. Those will actually be saved. They'll be vacuumed out, cleaned, the carpet will go down, it'll go back in with some supplementing. So it's a very efficient system. It's made it safer. We can get all these teams out there. I want to know, and the AD at the high school can't even answer, where were all these people before we had those lights out there? We don't know where we were putting them. A lot of people weren't practicing, so it helps across the board. But it is a $1 million, minimum of $1 million, and we're year 3 now, we should have $300,000 in that account.
Right.
And I implore the council to step up here and do what is proper and right, and support their biggest assets, their children and their schools, and contribute to this. And not forget that it was their project and their idea. And so I could spend hours here.
Please don't.
Yeah, I could go on.
Okay, thank you, Wendy,
Yeah, just a little
and I
question.
will be supporting this motion and the amendment. I think it's extremely important that we continue to make the investment in these fields. If I remember from operations, we have $4,000 in this account, and we
Which
should
the
be.
board contributed 100, or a good portion of, and $4,000 is.
And we
not
should
gonna
be
cut it.
putting away, us and the town, $100,000 a year in order
Yep.
to replace this field.
Yep.
So, I know that, one of the things we talked about at the last meeting was maybe having some kind of an update, from the turf field committee. I don't know if that's at operations or here. I would love to hear what the plans are gonna be, from the town side to help with this fundraising. But I do believe we need to get the ball rolling, and so yes, I'm in full support of this. And I'm wondering, the 50,000 you came up with because it was projected over what we anticipated?
For a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
I struggled with a percentage. If you said, I thought of assigning a percentage. This is our first year in. I felt that we needed to at least begin this and open the door. I also felt that when we looked at our memo way back when, we're not up because of the rollout heading into, finalizing and closing our books. There's a differential of $52,000. I took that $52,000 in which we weren't sure that we were going to see and put it where we knew we could put it. And that's how I came up with the dollar amount.
Okay, thank you.
Just, the numbers guy here. Quick clarification question. Capital reserve balance, do we know that offhand? And I would also.
It's in the capital sheet.
You have a sheet.
Oh, the overall capital reserve balance?
It's going to be over $600,000.
Okay, so then just to clarify, if we were to take the 50,000 out, this is an unaudited amount, right? So whatever the remainder would be right now, with that, the 296 then, 296,753 is posted as the remainder, right?
The unaudited amount right now is $346,753. Is that correct?
Correct. Right.
If you take the 346 and roll out the 50,000, the remainder, the intent would be going to capital reserve to add to the 600,000.
Right, but we can do a motion that's kind of fluid to whatever that audit amount ends up being.
That's why you have the 50,000.
I can support it. But I also want to remember, we're Board of Education, and I know we spend a lot of time talking about turf, and I also want to make sure our energies are devoted to the larger.
I understand. We have one time.
And this is an easy way to say.
Well, we have
put 50,000 in, town council.
Time during the year.
Take note of what we just did.
Put 100,000
And do the right thing.
Thank you. Just a clarification, when you say capital reserve, does everybody understand it's the Board of Ed's capital
Yes,
reserve?
it
It doesn't
is.
need to be said.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Great question.
Okay.
And 607,536
Parliamentarian.
is what we have in there.
Parliamentarian, help me out with the vote here. It's just as amended?
As amended.
Okay.
Which the minutes will reflect both
Right.
accounts.
Okay, so if I could have,
We're gonna
back
vote
up
it
here.
as amended. You
So-
have to vote on the amendment,
Mhm.
and then as amended.
That's what I was, yeah. So if we can vote on the amendment first, please. Those in favor? Thank you. Now we'll go back to the motion to request to the town that the year-end balance for 2017-18, subject to final audit, go to capital reserve less $50,000, and to go to the turf field replacement account as noted in discussion, the account number. Those in favor? And thank you. Okay, speaking of capital reserve, here we go. I need a motion to approve the request for capital reserve funds, HPS oil tank, in the amount of $92,000.
So moved.
Second.
Speaking to?
Sure, why not? So the oil tanks, I'll be very brief. I'll try to be very brief. Basically, in May, as the board recalls, or beginning at the end of, in January, actually, the town and the board had come to a realization that we needed oil tanks replaced. This particular oil tank was ordered, or the vendor was notified in May, and the minutes will reflect that there was still a funding protocol that we weren't quite sure that where this is going to come from, but it had to be ordered, and here we are. In the spirit of transparency, I hope that the board passes this so we can get it to the town council, which then takes that request and sends it to the Board of Finance. But I am also hopeful that discussions would ensue with the board and the town, that in May, we had a different snapshot. In May, this tank needed to be ordered. We are told it needed to be ordered. We did it. We didn't identify a true funding source, knowing it could only come from two areas of the board, operation or capital. That's it. That's all we have to go. But in May, the town also didn't have a $1.5 million uppage. And so it is only my belief that had the timing been a little bit different, perhaps that would have been included in all 6 oil tanks and not 5. I see no reason why it wouldn't have been. So I am hopeful that we need to move this along. We need to identify a funding source. It can't come out of our operational budget, at least I don't feel that it should. And perhaps on the side, have you pursue some conversations to see if there's any way that before we take this to the October 10th meeting of the Board of Finance, should it pass the council, that we might want to take another look at it. That's just the long-term plan. The short-term plan is we need to hopefully move this on.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And the high school roof. I'm just looking for an update here. What we have.
Mr. Monrette is here and can bring you up to date. We've all been, you and I and others have been in meetings. No action requested tonight, but just an update. Kevin, if you can just
So we had a
do
meeting
that.
at the Mayor Town Hall about a week ago, and the idea was that they would allocate some funds now to make a better repair to the roof damage while we're going through the bid process for a full-time replacement. We're working on getting those numbers together hopefully next week, and then moving forward in conjunction with the town to figure out the bond process.
At last discussion, I think it's fair to say that we had identified basically 4 options that have been spec'd out and that need to be bid and priced. One would be to replace any of the sections that were damaged with an asphalt type replacement. 2 would be to replace the entire roof with asphalt, basically recreating what the school had when it was built some years ago. 3 would be to put on a metal roof, which is likely more expensive, but will give us a longer lifetime. And 3A, I guess it would be, is to put solar installation on some or all of that roof. So that is the detailed work that's being spec'd out that ultimately will have to be bid. And our hope is we can work with the city, with the town, and move quickly through this so that if something is approved by the town purchasing authority, it can make it into the January bonding process. So there's a lot of work to be done, but right away, as the chairman has mentioned, we need to secure the roof as it is so that things don't get worse while we're talking about it. And I'm confident that we'll get that done.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Just so noted, I'd like to thank those that have been, following this and moving along by getting the repairs and having the mayor request a appropriation, an emergency appropriation of up to $200,000 so we can at least get this repair going, reimbursement for those repairs from the insurance company. But they did act swiftly. This was at the Board of Finance the other night. I was there, and I do appreciate that. We, as a board and a community, appreciate at least moving that piece along.
Thank you. And we'll keep you appraised of the progress on this, even if there is no progress. So
there's going to be progress.
Yes, there will.
Has to be.
Okay. Item H. NES Grade 2 Enrollment and Staffing. I need a motion to add a second grade teacher to Northville Elementary School at a cost not to exceed $60,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Angie, and then Brian.
It's unfortunate that this was not identified before the beginning of the school year. I had gone to both elementary schools with Mr. Lawson at the end of last week and had the opportunity to look at the classrooms and the space. My personal opinion, I think there's ample space in the classrooms. And I will also say that I was actually surprised by the number of support staff in some of the classrooms. I was not aware that some of the classrooms have coverage nearly all day. I think it sets a bad precedent if we do this for a couple reasons. Just looking at the class list, there's 24.2 kids in 5th grade. Is 5th grade going to come next week and want another teacher?
We knew this when we voted on the budget, that these numbers were going to be high. All of us, I didn't vote on the budget, but several people did. And you knew those numbers were going to be high when we did this. I'm also very concerned about the students. Second grade, they're still fairly young, and we're uprooting them 3 weeks, 4 weeks into school, probably 4 or 5 weeks by the time we hire a teacher. I know there were a couple parents here that expressed concern about the class sizes. I've heard from several parents that are expressing concern about moving their children this late in the game. To be honest, I'm still not sure how I'm going to vote on this. I can see both sides of it. I think it's, again, unfortunate this wasn't identified earlier. But I'm not sure it's the right thing to do now either.
Brian?
I agree with a lot of what you said, Angie. But I've also read a lot of the studies about, that at the younger grades, 24 kids, 23 kids in the class is too large, and it's a shame that they're at that. And so I'm going to support hiring this second grade teacher because I think it's early enough in the school year where it's going to be hard on the kids, I know, but the second graders are resilient and they'll be in their new class and happy within a couple weeks. And all the studies show that, kids are actually at that age are better off with class sizes of no larger than 17, or the studies I've read. So 24 is just too large in my mind.
Tammy?
I share your sentiment that I wish something was done over the summer. I think we met over the summer, and I think that our numbers were there, and I think that we would have had other options available to us, including moving a HPS teacher over. But we are where we are, and I personally want to say that I just had a child go through second grade. He is now here. He enjoyed a small class. There were 19 to 20 kids in his class, and all I have to say to that is thank God, because he would have not made it. He would have fallen through the cracks here. I'm supporting this motion. I think we need to add a teacher. I do understand that there are going to be parents out there who are upset that their children will be moved, but I do believe that children are resilient, and I know the atmosphere at Northville. There will be something that will be done to make these kids feel special, that they'll be going into a new class. And I do believe that the teachers that they're currently with will be supporting them, and they will have even more support in having two teachers. I think it's very important, and I thank you for these numbers because it even solidified it for me. I do believe here it says we have 140 at NES, and on another page it said 139. I think we had 3 teachers, 3 new students that came in, so I really think we're at 24, 3 at 24 and 3 at 23 in our classes, and that's a lot. It's a lot for second grade, and also considering that Northville has 14 students who are special ed compared to HPS that has 8. And that a lot of these one-on-one instructors are with one child. They are designated to be with the children that they are there to support. And if you have someone else who's in a lower tier but isn't getting that support, they're not going to get the support from that tutor or that paraprofessional. The recommendation by the superintendent in also looking at the disparity is important in that we've never seen this class size since, well, we have the data since 2015 that we've never had a class size that large. And I think we need to take that into consideration because I think that's really important. So I'm going to be supporting adding a teacher. We need to do what's best for our students. And this is, in my opinion, what is best for our students.
Well, before you go, JT, again, it's regrettable that we're dealing with this now. There's just no question about that. I know things are fluid, but I think we did have an inkling of this happening before the summer. Class size is certainly paramount. I know I did tour with Angie. This is one that I've struggled with, so to speak, and then not so struggled with. So I think that we need to keep that in mind. Elementary kids are little different animals than middle school or high school. So, JT?
I want to thank the second grade team for bringing this not only through Committee on Learning, we saw presentations there, through public comment, also at operations. So we've had a lot of discussions at subcommittee on this too, and I share your sentiments, Angie. And I can really come down to three things in this. The one that I see, there's maybe the first thing I always come back to is we have 3 elementary schools, we have 2 elementary schools. How best can we see that parity between these 2 schools? And you know that even in budget time, I'll always say, well, what's the allocation for this school and that school, and how you're calculating that allocation rate, and how is it assigned per student for the respective buildings. The place we really have to look at parity is the place we have 2 different elementary schools. And that's the only place we really need to look at that parity, because we have a single school for the subsequent grade levels. So I look at parity. I asked a number of questions about turnover savings. We call that in business breakage, right? How much breakage do we have from what our expected staffing levels were? We had budgeted a high amount of $275,000 for turnover savings. We've met and now exceeded that amount. So I think that's important from a financial perspective. There are funds within the staffing and certified staffing account by which we can do this. So I was satisfied with that financial obligation at our last, within operations, when asking that question. And I think there's 2 other pieces of that third prong. And one is the grade 2 team. I feel, having heard this team present and how passionate they are and that they come out as a team every time that they've presented this to us, I feel like they're going to make this work. And I want to trust their spirit within the teaching core there, that they'll make this work. And it's really refreshing to hear there's a parent that has come out and said, yes, take my kid. And I've got to hope that there's another 18 parents that can see the larger good for the entire second grade cohort. So I will support it, but again, I just want you to understand where my basis comes from, and it's really those 3 pieces. So thank you, David.
Mm-hmm. Angie?
Question. If this passes, how will those students be identified to be moved?
That's something that the principal and I will have to talk about. My assumption, not having had the conversation yet, is that the creation of the new class will be done in much the same way as the creation of the original 6 were. That is, looking for balance in a variety of areas, boys and girls, higher need kids, making sure that the 7 classes are reasonably balanced in those respects. There may be a way to also incorporate volunteers if there are some parents who would like to raise their hand and make it a little easier. I think we can do that, but I don't think it can be driven solely by volunteers, because that could lead to a class that you or I would look at and say, well, wait a minute, that's not balanced in the ways that we typically create classes. So I think it would be a combination of the 2. We want to get teacher recommendations. We know a little bit about the youngsters in terms of their past academic performance, any special needs. And then if we can find some way to incorporate volunteers into that, that's how I would do it. I think Ms. Murray and I are going to have to talk about that pending your vote.
Wendy?
Well, I had expressed at operations that I was torn. I came walking in here this evening, and I really was not going to support this, but I am going to support this. The arguments far exceed my concerns, and I think that answer deeply concerned me of how we are going to move. Mm-hmm. It's the youngsters we're here for. At the end of the day, that's why we're here. That answer helped me. I'm not pleased on the timing of this. We know that we have money in the budget, but be cautious, JT. It's early in the year. Don't come out overly optimistic. We don't know what funding we're going to get and what our revenue source is going to be. So I want the board to be mindful that as we have parents and staff sitting here, we do take, these are tough decisions. We have $64 million of decisions that we make on a weekly basis, and we don't take that lightly. But I understand. I think that I will support this motion. It's the right thing to do. However, I would like it also noted that when we start adding staff, it needs to be noted that we are still, our enrollment is still down, because there's this conversation out there, And in 2003, we had 5,240 students in the New Milford district. By your numbers, we're looking at 3,972. So I'd like that on the record, because I don't want that
No, that's
undercurrent
very,
there.
And we're down 131 from just last year.
Correct. So we need to do a little bit,
yeah, the problem we have
better
with
job.
enrollment, it's not even.
Oh, I
You have
completely
little-
understand
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Absolutely.
But it's not, you know,
I
people
know.
are going around saying,
People are
oh,
going to
you know,
hear,
it's not the
Just
case
saying.
at all.
I just want that very, very
We
clear.
have bubbles here and valleys there.
Because as we know as board members, we're going to be walking out through this community, and that question is going to come up, so I think that should be noted. I'll support it.
Any other?
David?
Oh, yes, sorry, thank you.
Just 2 points I'd like to make, and I expect expediency with this proposal, since it sounds like it'll pass, but as soon as possible to make this class and the transition.
I agree.
You know, the earlier the better. And the other point, I think it was from JT, he talked about looking over this coming year of moving the district lines to make the equity a little bit fairer, more balanced. And I think
Well, that's something we can discuss in committee.
definitely something we should be looking at. Okay, and I will support the motion.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a point of clarification, the not to exceed 60,000, I assume that pertains to salary only? That's important because
It is because it.
I'm going to have to defer to finances here.
we've assumed, for the sake of discussion, a first step of the master's schedule salary, which is just north of 56,000. Benefits would take us over 60. So if by 60, the meaning is not more than $60,000 worth of salary, we can work with that?
Well, our budget adjustment in June, when we adjusted our budget, that one position was $55,000. So I would assume that we're somewhere in that realm.
Right, but that
So-
does not include benefits.
Exactly.
Benefits would take you another 11 to 20-something thousand higher. So if we're all understanding that we're talking about salary, then we can do it. And we will move quickly, I think, as I mentioned to the Operations Committee, without making any obligations to anyone, because we didn't know what you all would do tonight. HR has gotten out an anticipated announcement. We're looking for candidates, so we weren't just waiting around. And I do appreciate that the timing of this is very awkward. This would have been easier to do a month ago, but we weren't talking about it a month ago. But thank you for wrestling with it and trying to do what you think is best for our little kids.
Okay, those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. And moving on to the superintendent search. Okay, I had emailed to you what we did last time, a timeline.
And I have
If any of
copies
you
if you,
didn't-
need it.
If you don't have it with you, anybody need a? And this is for discussion. We don't have to have a decision tonight.
Is this the same document that we saw by email today?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
I have it.
But what we're looking at is what we didn't pass. We started with an ad hoc, and then it elevated to the whole board as the committee for the search. And I'd just like to entertain your ideas, how you think we should proceed on this. And we did, I think one of the key components we did during this search was the focus groups that we had with the various constituents that would be involved with that. I think that went on very, very well. And we continued with special meetings, which were the full board in that search. And then, as you can see, we go right into March, February and March for the final candidates. Yes, and
I'll defer to Angie.
Angie?
Couple things.
Sure.
One, I think we have a lot on our plate right now, and I think this is probably not the best time to get a superintendent, seeing as school just started. I would prefer that we wait until after budget and do that then. Of course, that would I mean, Dr. Tracy would have to make, accommodations for that as well.
No pressure, Dr. Tracy.
I think
just
there
trying
were
to keep you
several,
around.
I think there were several superintendents hired this summer in Connecticut. I would love to see us do a nationwide search. I feel like we're recycling the same 6 or 8 superintendents through the various districts. I also am torn on using a firm again. I did not think they brought us great candidates the last time. Maybe that was just who was available at that time, but I was not super impressed with the quality of the candidates that came forward. I don't think we're going to be able to do it for $13,000. I think that's a low number. I think we probably should raise that. And I had one more comment, which has now escaped me.
I agree. Actually, I think that just as we made a decision based on this last financial decision that comes out of our budget, here's another one. Okay, and this we know begins at anywhere from $14,000 and up. That this is an unbudgeted item. This is one of the largest investments that this district can make. We need to be. How can I say? We need to definitely engage in a long-term replacement and widen our search. I agree with you. I think it should be a nationwide search. I'm also concerned about the timing that will be right in the middle of budget. So I'd like to really think about our timing, how long something like this would take. And I'm hopeful that perhaps, I don't know if you plan on setting up, my concern about setting up an ad hoc committee, which you can do by virtue of board policy, you don't need board approval to do that, is that the ad hoc committee really stays on task with bringing the board the information to get this moving. And when I say get things moving, I don't mean hiring a superintendent immediately. I mean doing it in a different manner in which we did it last time. I also thought that perhaps it was just the timing that the candidate pool was not exactly what I was, I thought we could have had a larger candidate pool. So I think we need to be cognizant that the number is going to be higher. And if we could perhaps do a combination of an ad hoc committee to work with firms to bring this board a proposal. Maybe that might be the way to do it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's why we're having this discussion.
That's just
I guess what I'm saying is, well, my thoughts are that we would have an ad hoc committee established so that we can start to get things going. It doesn't mean we have to hire somebody immediately. We don't even know who's out there. You're right, we don't know that. As for, nationwide search, certainly. I mean, but these are the things that we need to have an ad hoc committee as a clearinghouse to get us started, because right now where we're at is, well, nowhere. And we do know we're going to need a superintendent at some point. No offense, sir. But that would be my suggestion there. JT?
I think we should also remember, too, the ad hoc committee that was set up to find the interim superintendent was a crack team. It just did a great job in a really tight amount of time. No, I went to the side of the table, and I will say, did a great job, and that was really quick. It was efficient, luckily, and we've had a very high quality interim superintendent. I have to wonder if we can. There's some lessons learned. I think that goes to show us that the ad hoc maybe actually be really productive in this quest, because you can do some of those things outside of budget and that are happening before budget, and a smaller group of people. We all wanted to be invested in the superintendent search, and I think that's why we made essentially an ad hoc of 9.
Well, we had the special meetings, yes.
Right, we had special, right. But I think if we maybe even look to some local districts who found superintendents recently, and maybe there's an opportunity to reach out to some of those districts within an ad hoc structure to say, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? Because I can name about 5 or 6 local boards of ed who have recent superintendents, and maybe we can learn lessons there in the quest for our search.
Well, again, an ad hoc committee could filter out some of these things. In other words, Ellie. Yeah.
Are you looking, well, he doesn't need a motion for an ad hoc. He is the.
I'm trying to get a
Set up
sense
an ad
here.
I agree. I agree with what's been said. I'm just wondering, do we
Well,
shift this?
a lot of people have said things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, she agrees with it.
Well, I agree that we should adjust the timeline. If Dr. Tracy is willing to stay with us.
Okay.
And, but I'm just wondering, does that mean that we shift this whole timeline to kind of start in February? Or will we be
we don't
doing
have to
some
discuss
things?
timeline just yet.
Right.
That's clear.
This entire timeline is 6 months.
Right.
When you take a look at
What
the
I'm
sheet.
talking, all right, let's take the dates off. And what process? Let's do it that way. Let's look at it that way. And I think the sooner that we start gathering information, the better off we'll be. That's all.
Okay, you know what?
It might take a month, it might take 6 months, it might take a
JT, you
year.
opened up the can of worms. Can I say something?
No,
This is gonna drive y'all crazy, but let's just keep going here. The ad hoc committee last time did do a good job. I actually read all the minutes today in preparation for tonight of that committee. And I would hope that you would consider a similar ad hoc committee. I know that you were the chair of that committee, and there were other individuals. And since you did such a great job last time around, then perhaps we can encourage those volunteers to come forward and filter out some of that information to bring to the board.
I'm leaving that one alone.
So would you consider chairing it?
I'd do it.
Well,
there you go.
Okay, but let me, let's get rid of the dates here and talk about process. Okay, obviously, it can change with the discussion I've even heard this evening. But we can start to get going on this. Like I said, who knows, we might find a Cracker Jack prize in a month, and it might be a year.
I think you should start with an ad hoc committee to bring forward information.
Right.
That's what I think you should do.
Okay.
I
agree.
There you
Joe?
go.
Very well then. I will entertain any volunteers to do that. I've got one. I'll give
Really,
you.
you want to leave the whole superintendent search to me?
The other side of the table?
Here's what we'll do. We don't have to do it this evening. I'll call you tomorrow morning though. If everybody would think about that in earnest, there's no,
If there's no
time.
other takers, I'll put my name in.
There's no
But I would like
there's
to
no
open it up
time
to
crunch
everybody
on
else.
this, okay? We're not under a deadline for it, so please consider that. Okay?
How many people do you expect? to have? Yeah.
I think we had 3. Yeah.
3 for the interim, yeah.
Mhm. So, all right, we can finalize that tomorrow. I'll have a memo sent out. Okay? All right, thank you. And so we will not be taking any motions there. Items for information and discussion, as you know, we gave the authority to the superintendent over the summer, and that's why it's at the end this time. Any questions on Exhibit A, personnel? Certified?
Dave?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry if I speak up so much tonight, I'm taking up so much time, but my role here, I believe, is important. I have had some high school students look at this agenda item themselves, and a question came up about why we do not have a dance team coach at the high school when we have a team and a group of young ladies who are a little disappointed, so I'll just throw that out there.
Sure. Mr. Lipinski is still searching for an advisor. They're hard to come by. So he is definitely, and I am sure, I would hope to say that we're confident we'll find someone, but he's definitely working on that.
I hope do we have someone to support that team right now in some fashion?
I'd have to check and get back to you. I don't know where he is with that.
Is that a salary position?
It's a
Stipend.
Stipend.
I'd just like to say regrettably, I saw a name on there with somebody sitting here this evening.
Yes, I was about to mention that.
Yep, I was going to say the same thing.
Roberta Pratt, you've brought so much to this district. You've made us secure. You've opened up that information highway. I'll never forget the slide you showed. for us and updated things in a timely fashion and got things onto a rotation in this ever-changing technological world. And, you change your mind, it's okay. Just letting you know, it's okay. But seriously, thank you very, very much for your service here and all the achievements and goals that you've accomplished while you were here. Okay.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah, I know. Now I have to go to monthly reports or something? Yeah, I know. Really?
Is that what you're
I have a
going
personnel
to
question,
report?
actually.
Okay.
Just, I know at operations, Ellie, you had mentioned there were 5 certified openings. I just want to know where we stand with that.
I have that. We have 2 recommendations being made for part of that 5. So we're down to 3 that we're still looking for.
I think it's 4 now,
You think what is 4 now?
as of this evening.
Well, because we added the second grade.
Oh, well, yeah, that's exciting, and I think that, we're
Just
going
say
to, yes. Come on, I'm trying to get out of this hole. I'm trying to tell it. Every time I think I'm getting to the top, somebody pushes us back.
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, now we have 4, but we do have 2 coming to us, and the principals are really actively going through applications and making phone calls. We're doing everything we can. Some of the positions that are opening are really, really hard to find.
Which ones are they?
We have a bilingual teacher, which is going to be
Great.
very, very difficult. We're working on that. There's a plan in place. Ms. DeCorpo and Dr. Longo worked that out. We have a Spanish opening at the high school that is difficult to find. And the rest of them from special ed and now grade 2 teachers.
There you go.
And I do want to take the chance, Mr. Chairman, to thank Ms. Baldelli for the work that she and her HR team have done. What you see in this exhibit is just the tip of the iceberg. There were, a lot of work behind that, and I know I sign all the forms, but I've lost count of the number of searches that have been successfully concluded. We have four more still ahead of us, but I do appreciate the work that you've done to get us some good people.
Thank you,
I can't think of anything more important, frankly, than the quality of the teaching faculty and staff that comes in. After you've hired your people, maybe there's another 15% that you can do with curriculum and computers and stuff like that, but it's who's in front of our kids.
Yep.
And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And move on to monthly reports.
2 follow-up questions?
Mhm,
on my
absolutely.
questions. We have a memo for I had asked the question about the tuition. So this is the revenue that goes to the town based on the tuition, correct? Okay. 2 other things, and forgive me if I can't find it. Do we have in our budget book a revenue to the town, in our actual budget book? Okay, we had it years ago, and eventually, and I'm not saying we have to go back there, but I think it would be good practice that the board and the community familiarize themselves at all revenues that come into both the board and the town, so eventually, I think that we might want to take a look at that. There's large numbers out there, and, it helps at budget time. And lastly, I think there was a question, I'd asked this question at operations about the revenue based on projected revenue for gate receipts, pay to participate, all of that kind of thing. Did I ask that at operations?
Yes, and those are in our budget as revenue items. The tuition that you spoke of is not one of our revenue items. So just a clarification, you're asking that maybe we incorporate into our budget book revenue items for tuition being regular ed and the other one would be Sherman.
Yeah, I
Right,
think
all
that would be
revenues.
a good
And that's just a
breakdown.
future conversation, but what I had asked for at operations, and I probably didn't make it clear, so at next month it would be helpful. Our revenue projections based on our pay to participate and
Sherman.
our
Gate receipts.
our gate receipts and our parking as well. Where would we be in October in relation to our projection and where we are right now? Participants, that kind of thing. Would we have that information?
We book those quarterly, so at the end of this month, we should, we had none July or August, so it would be at the end of November, we would be booking those in Munis, so you wouldn't necessarily see them on next month's report.
So we wouldn't have an idea until November of really, let's say, if we wanted to know how many payees do we have for parking? How many participants do we have in sports in relation to our projected revenue?
I could take a snapshot at a period of time
And
if
we
the
won't
board
hold you to it.
wishes to do that, separate from what we normally do is book these revenues, just like any of the other revenues, whether it's for for building use fees and other ones, which we do quarterly.
That's right.
But we could take a snapshot in time. You might not necessarily see it manifest on the report, on the budget position, but I could do a separate memo and say, this is what we have so far.
That would be really helpful,
Yep.
and I apologize if I wasn't clear on that
No, it's
request at
okay.
operations.
Joe?
Perhaps I may phrase it a little differently. I would like exact numbers where we are today with the number of students that have purchased parking permits this year and the number of students and the amount of income we have taken in from pay to play this year to date.
Got it. So that'll be an item of information that'll come up through operations?
Yes, please. Do you think you could have that for next month?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, the Sarah Noble condensation. You could have an update, sir?
Kevin, please, thanks.
Sure. So over the summer, we had a couple concerns with the building. We talked about this at the facility meeting, where essentially the system here was never designed to have chilled water running through it. And 20-plus years later, it's starting to show its signs of age and wear. That resulted in condensation drips throughout the building, which our team did a tremendous job of cleaning up and addressing as they became aware of them. We contracted with a vendor to re-insulate the pipes as best we could in the week or two before school started, but we still have quite a lot of work to do. We reached out to our enviroscience consultant to try and figure out what the next steps would be and how to go about repairing this in a long-term manner. But I'm happy to say that we were able to open the school on time and without incident, and I think we've done a pretty good job of getting the building ready, given the circumstances.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted to add a thanks to our health department and Mike Crespin for coming over and taking a look. We wanted to have an independent set of eyes, not just the environmental consultants that our team brought in, but also the health inspector. So he's been in here at least once because I walked around with him. He may have been back subsequent times, but he was very helpful.
JT? and Brian?
Sorry. Do you want?
Go ahead, JT.
You're facilities chair, you know?
All right, but I wasn't at that meeting, so it's okay.
No, I'm curious, so the system itself, the AC system, is that separate from a heating system?
No, the system in the building was designed to be heat only.
Okay.
Right.
And it's a two-pipe system, but in order to have proper AC, it should really be a four-pipe.
Right. So with the switchover, then you go.
That's
okay.
right.
All right.
That's right.
I just wanted to make a comment. I do appreciate the way it was handled because I read the comments from Michael Crespin, and I feel like it was handled really well and the right way, and that you were very quick to test the air and that it was safe for everybody to be in that building. So that I appreciate, because that doesn't always happen.
I have a quick,
Yes.
I just wondered whether or not we are communicating with parents, making sure that they understand that the air quality in this building is okay, because like I said, people have heard that there was an issue with condensation, and we just want to make sure our families are rest assured that their kids are safe. I know that something went out to the staff, but really we do need to communicate
Yeah,
with
that would
parents.
be the superintendent.
And that's a good point. In fact, the chairman can see that I already wrote that down on my list of things to do. We do, and now that we're hopefully out of the heating season, we should be out of this problem. I think we can speak authoritatively with the parents and also to let them know what we did in terms of testing and safety and cleanup. But that's a good point.
Okay. And field trips. Okay, at this time, I need a motion to adjourn the
So
meeting.
moved.
And
quick.
second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
I raised my hand prematurely.
All right.
Thank you. That's unanimous.